and have a moment of silence, and then we will do the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. David Britton.
If you will, please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Okay. At this time, I would like to ask for approval of the minutes from our March 23rd meeting. I believe there was one revision that was already corrected and has been emailed out to everybody on page 12. Are there any other corrections or that we need to do for that? Okay, with none being heard, would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes from our March 23rd meeting?
I so move to approve.
Thank you.
This is David.
Thank you, David. Do I have a second? Okay, was that Leslie, that second?
Let's I think you need to unmute.
That was me. I seconded it. Sorry, I had my mic.
There we go.
muted.
There we go. Thank you very much. All in favor? Anybody opposed? I guess I should say first. That's probably the easier way to do it. Anybody opposed? Okay, all in favor? Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so minutes have passed. Okay, next on the agenda is our adjustment and approval of the agenda. We have already received a couple of amendments to the agenda. Number one is the addition of the consent item number 6. If you would add that to your agenda, please, under consent items number 6 for the 2019 local government agencies general records retention and disposition schedule. We also have the general records schedule for local government agencies that will be with that. And then number 2, as far as the agenda goes, is the addition of new business number 12, which is the consideration of supplemental pay for frontline workers, school nutrition and bus drivers, and they will present that later on. So are there any other adjustments to the agenda?
I thought there was a addition to new business number 1 for information only, the summary of information on the COLA grant.
Okay, was that additional information? Is that just part of number 1?
It's part of number 1. It just says addition to new business number 1 for information only, summary of information on the COLA grant and quality improvement grant that will be presented for approval.
Okay, so does that need to be added to the agenda then?
I think it needs to be added to the name of number 2. Just that the summary of information on the COLA grant.
Okay, so on new business number 1, adding to that title of approval of 2020-21 early Head Start supplemental grants and summary, will that suffice?
Yes.
David? Okay, and summary. If you'll change that then. Are there any other adjustments to the agenda?
No, ma'am.
Okay, with none being said, would somebody like to make a motion to approve our new agenda?
I make a motion to approve. This is Glenn.
Okay, Glenn.
I'll
Somebody like to
second that. Leslie, I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? None opposed. Okay. Dr. Stover, your superintendent
All
report.
right. Good evening, everyone. It is at least good to see your faces. And as I tell our staff all the time, it's at least we get to see each other videoing, but we'll be reunited once again. So let me get into the report because we've got a lot to just update you guys on. And so we're going to start with what does it look like right now for our students, our teachers, our principals, our central office staff. We wanted to put together what education looks like right now at Catawba County Schools. So Terry Hall has created a video, and I'd like you guys to take a look at it. I think as board members, two things are going to come out of it, I hope. One is you see what's going on and even more. And then two is to give you something to smile about because like me, I can't be more proud of our staff across this district. So without further ado, Marty, can you crank that up for us? Okay, so Deanna was saying when she first watched it, it made her a little emotional, and here it almost dropped a tear in my eye too. I tell you, it's been a lot of work. I couldn't be more proud of our employees, our students, and parents, and folks. I just want to tell you one more time, and I think I've said a lot, but without you guys coming in and passing those policies, we couldn't have gotten ahead of where we were at. And I truly mean your leadership in that point to pass those policies, remote learning and work from home. This never would have happened, and we would have been even more reactionary. So I can't thank you enough. So the other thing I want to tell you with that video is our participation rate, and I don't know the exact percentage, but our participation rate, I can say with all my heart, I know this for sure, is well over 90% of our students are participating right now, excluding our seniors. And not only that, I think that we're definitely at least staying where we're at. And in some cases, in a lot of cases, we're moving forward. And that is because our staff is just, they're doing great work. And the kids have bought in. And the reason the kids have bought in is our teachers are going online just like this and having hangouts every day with their kids. They're talking to them. And it is amazing. So anyhow, you've got a lot to be proud of for the organization you guys are responsible for. And I'll tell you, I know I am. So I just want to say kudos to everyone. It's been absolutely wonderful. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Carla. She's got a couple budget updates, and we'll keep going. I've got a few more things after Carla.
Okay, can you hear? Ooh. Deanna, Chris, and I are in the BT room, so that kind of flew back at me. She turned her volume down, so I think we're good. And here comes Marty to help. Yay. So I shared with you a PDF document that is just a little update on where we are budget-wise. And I don't want to read it to you, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Right now, we have received $551,750 in state COVID-19 supplemental funding, and it's coming to you as a budget amendment in the consent agenda tonight. And what we've budgeted that for right now is to continue to pay Quest salaries while we're closed. Now, depending on when we can reopen Quest will depend on how much we have left. If Quest stays closed through the end of June, it's probably going to take that entire $551,000 just to cover their salaries. But if we were to have any left, we're also missing tuition from our preschool payers, not our NC pre-K students, but our private payers. So that would be helpful to have that money to help cover that. And then child nutrition is only, we think their reimbursements are going to equal about half of their regular operating revenue. So we could certainly use that funding to make up that difference as well. But right now, Quest is our extreme need because they aren't bringing in any revenue at all. And we have the potential to receive federal funding. Our low end range is $2.6 million and our high end range is $2.8 million. We won't know what that allotment is until early June, and there's an application process for that. The application process is going to be the same as for our title budgets, and I sure hope it's a smoother approval process than we've recently had with our title budgets, because if it isn't, it may be after July 1 before we receive that money, and I think we're really going to need it in this fiscal year, and then carrying forward to the next year. So we'll just have to see what happens with that. And I thought this was just good information. For non-payroll items, child nutrition spent $276,000 in the month of March, and so that was about half of a month. Half of a month's worth. In a regular month, when school's operating, they spend about $450,000 on non-payroll items, and then over $300,000 on their payroll. So anyway, child nutrition is still bringing in revenue. We just expect it to be at about half. So I expect that they'll be able to cover their payroll expenses, but maybe not the food that they're buying, or vice versa. We can flip-flop that either way, but we'll just see how that turns out and be thankful that we have federal funding coming our way to help offset those expenses. My biggest worry with that right now is that if we don't get the federal funding before July 1, it may put us in a cash flow bind, just because we'll have to cover their expenditures, or all three of these programs' expenditures until out of local until our federal funding comes in. Do you have any questions for me about that? Okay. Oh. Let me turn that back up. Deanna, turn the volume back up. Do you have any questions? Oh, there's something in the comments. Hang on.
That's just Kathy asking if we can see her.
Okay. All right. So the next section of the PDF that I sent you was about a proposal that we would like to bring to you for bonuses or supplements for our frontline staff. And when we're talking about frontline staff, we think we've got that narrowed down to our school nutrition workers and the bus drivers, the people who really are on the front line and coming in contact with the general public. And I've got approximately 139 school nutrition workers and bus drivers, but it's more in the 140s now that I've looked at it a little more closely. And that just is amazing to me that we have that many folks who are willing to come out and help distribute food. It's awesome. And they've worked around 13,500 hours since this all started on 16th, 14th, 15th, March 16th. So what we would like to recommend, we've kicked a lot of things around, but what we would like to recommend is a stipend of either $1.50 or $2 per hour to these folks. And if we do a $2 per hour stipend, it would cost the district around $28,000 or $29,000. $1.50 per hour stipend would cost the district around $21,500. We'd like to pay this in May. Either mid-May or with the May payroll. And the reason that we're sticking with the $1.50 or $2 per hour amount is because we may want to do it again for the hours worked for the May payroll as well, because these folks are still reporting to work every day and taking the chance of coming in contact with the COVID-19 virus. So the reason that my figures include benefits, that's why it has Social Security and no retirement. I don't think we have to make the bonus subject to retirement, and that'll put more money in the employee's pocket as well as not costing the district as much. And we can't use child nutrition funds, nor can we use any of our state and probably not our federal COVID-19 money that's coming. It can only be used to pay regular salaries, nothing extra. So this would be a local expense out of our local budget. But hopefully with things slowing down and our purchasing cutoff has already passed, this shouldn't be a huge impact on our local budget. So do you have questions for me about that?
Carla, could you explain to them that one reason was going with the hourly pay is you've had people that worked less than an hour, and some people's worked, large amounts of hours. Some people's only work a few hours. That's really the fairest way of doing it.
I'll explain that. Deanna, have Carla pull up her volume. But in the meantime, we met with Chairman Fulbright, Vice Chairman Britton on Friday. And we batted around a lot of different scenarios. And then we arrived at an hourly per person would be a lot smoother and more equitable, because we have some people that came in and worked 1 or 2 weeks, and then some who didn't work the whole time. And then we have some who maybe got called in and they didn't need them. So we just felt like this was a good way of being equitable. Carla, can you expand on that, or would you like to expand on that?
I'll be glad to. Hang on, we got to turn the volume down. Okay, so what I took, and this was turned out to be really easy to do it this way, but because we were just fortunate that students got sent home on March the 14th, and our pay period ended on March the 13th. So the first day of the new pay period was actually the time all this started, and these are our hourly paid folks. So I was able just to run a timesheet report for the pay period, and it was very easy, and it's equitable. We have some employees, as Mr. Fulbright said, who may have only been called in for an hour or so, and we have employees who have worked 120 hours, 111 hours, just all different hour ranges during this pay period. But if we do the $1.50 or $2 per hour supplement, then it's equitable to everybody. Some of the districts around us were paying a flat dollar amount, say $500 for people who showed up every day, and then they prorated it backwards for the number of days that they worked. And it just really seemed like a complicated formula to me, and they designated you had to work so many days to even qualify for it. But by doing it at the per hour amount, that makes life a whole lot easier. So if somebody worked 100 hours in this pay period, they would either get a $150 supplement or a $200 supplement, depending on whether it was $1.50 or $2 an hour. Does that make sense?
Thank you, Carla.
I'd like to ask a question. This
Sure.
is Leslie. Carla, did you suggest the $2 or $1.50 an hour rather than the $3 an hour, just to decrease or lessen the impact on the local budget?
No, actually, my recommendation was that so that we could do it twice. If we
Okay.
did $3 an hour at
You wouldn't be
$43,000,
able to.
pushing $80,000 to do it twice seemed like a larger impact on the budget than doing it a little smaller and being able to pay them twice.
I understand. Thank you.
Not that that's necessarily the best, but I think from what we've heard, folks might like to see a little something in their check now rather than later. I guess we could wait till it's all over and pay them one supplement and see how much it's going to cost. But it'd be nice to let them know
Yes, it
we
would.
appreciate them now, I think.
Thank you.
Later, we have we've added to the agenda, and we can have more discussion about it then. And then certainly if you have any questions for Carla, please feel free. I would also like to add some good news in the fact that you saw in the paper from our local government, and then I followed up meeting with Carla, Dan, and I, and Mick and his staff. We'll get a 2% if it's approved at the next commissioner meeting. We're going to get an actual 2% increase, which is around $265,000 to $285,000 more next year. Depends on how many students we have, and which in their mind was actually a cut because they were going to give us a 2.8% increase. So I think we're in good shape with local. I think that's to be where we're at. Sales tax is going to be the issue moving forward for the local commissioners and the state legislators. So local next year, if this pans out, we're going to be in good shape, and I think we can move forward with our budget as we requested, the top priorities. But the state budget doesn't look so favorable. Of course, no decisions have been made on that, but DPI has, advised us that if we were allotted what we got this past year, keep in mind we didn't technically have a budget, but if they allotted what we got this past year, that would probably be a good thing. So that's what we're hoping for, because I think obviously the state will be using the rainy day fund for their other things they've had to pay for. So hopefully that would be the worst case scenario. The other piece of that that's not such good news is right now we're predicting 200 less students than we had last year. And everything's per pupil funding. With the stimulus money, the local dollars, hopefully the state remains the same. What I've done to help counteract that is, allotments. Each year we allot teachers and positions. So what we're doing is basically we're allotting at 85%. And then once we have a full budget from the state, federal, and local governments, then as we get freed up, hopefully will be the case, then we can allot those positions back out. And that way we're not losing people. It would just be positions. Right now, I think we have about 50 people retiring. And so, we can fill those gaps, move folks around if needed. So that's the way that we're going to try to approach that. So I know there were some concerns, even myself, if we were going to have to do some reductions. I don't think we will. Again, I don't think that we'll have to, but it's because we're being overly conservative right now. But I think that's better than going back and cutting later. So that's kind of where we're at with that. The federal government, CTE's gotten their budget, and it looks to be like 1 or 2 months less of employment than last year, which is Dr. Eisenhower's got a good plan for that. I'm curious about the Title I budget coming, because the state or with the federal government, with all the stimulus packages, I just don't know where this money is going to come from. But so if it's Title I dollars are cut, we'll have to rework those quite a bit. But if we can just fill the absolute needed positions and then and basically go at 85%, I feel very good about being conservative, and then we'll come back. So that tells you a little bit more about the local budget and what we know about the state and federal. It's kind of it's all up in the air right now. I think they're going back in session or some sort of committees tomorrow with the state legislation. I'm not sure how that's going to look, but so I know we have a lot of folks inquiring about the budget, and please, if you have any questions, we'll answer the best we can right now. Okay. The next report I have for you is about grading and graduation. So we just got the plans in from DPI of State Board, and now we're going to get those ready to go out to our public and our students. And then we've been working on graduation. We just have some ideas floating. But first, let's talk about grades. Deanna Finger, if you want to go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. It's good to see you today. I'm going to share the information that I have right now, and I'm pulling up a plan, and so it looks like I'm reading. I probably am. So I'm going to share just a little bit of information about each grade span of what we're going to be doing, and then I'll try to end with a short timeline of what this could look like for us. So we've worked pretty quickly after Thursday trying to put together what this looks like for Catawba County Schools and the communication plan, which is really key and integral for making sure folks understand. So in the K-5 range, the main thing for you to know is that students will not receive a fourth quarter grade nor a final grade. They are the only grade span that will not receive a grade at all during this time. And we're putting together communication about that. I'll tell you about that in a second, but we are working that communication to make sure parents know that we are going to open back up the Q3 grade on the report card, and work that students have completed during this remote learning time can still have a positive impact, but on the Q3 grade. We want students to feel rewarded for the work that they've done, and we want to make sure that that reflects in a grade, and that will reflect in the Q3 grade so they can continue to raise that grade. So there will be a message on the report card, making sure parents understand that Q3 now is a combination of what they did up until March 13th. And then it probably has increased for the students who were able to do that during the fourth quarter for their hard work. So that will be there. The other thing that will go home with students, and the state ask for this, is teachers will provide year-end instructional feedback to students, including their strengths and areas for improvement. And the state is coming up with this document that we'll use. We're waiting on that now. And teachers will fill that out for each student, and it will be mailed home in the final report card. So parents, without final grade, sometimes it's hard to know. This will replace final grade so that parents have a good idea of strengths and weaknesses from the school year leading into the next year. The third thing in K-5, which will not affect students, they won't know about this, but teachers have been asked to document strengths and needs of students in particular areas of academics and social emotional well-being. And we're coming up with a form for that. Ms. Shelley Black is working on that. It's a really simple form, but that form will be passed on to next year's teacher so that they have a good idea about the student. We won't have end of year testing and some of the data that we normally have. So this will replace that. So teachers have a good jump on knowing exactly where their students are coming into their class. So those are three of the main things in the K-5 range of what will be happening. In the 6-8 area, 6-8 is pretty simple as well. Students will get a final grade in grade 6 through 8, but it will not be a numerical grade. They will either get a pass code or a withdrawal code if they were not passing. All of that is determined by where they were by March 13th, end of Q3 for us here in Catawba County Schools. So they'll get one of those two codes to match the senior option. That's what that will look like in that final grade spot. And the thing we are going to make sure of in the middle school area as well is that all the work that students are doing now and it's being graded, we will open back up Q3 and allow that grade to be adjusted to award or reward students for the work that they've been doing. Students that were not passing at Q3, this work will be able to go into Q3 to hopefully raise that up to a pass. If for some reason they're not passing by the time we're finished with remote learning this school year, they will get that WC19 code. So no students will fail a class this year. They will either get the PC19 code or the WC19 code. Again, teachers will have to document strengths and needs, both academically and social emotionally, and will share that with administration in the middle school area to help with placement for next year, and to give those teachers in the upcoming year a good idea about the students they're getting and the needs that they are going to have. So we feel like that's a pretty good plan, K through 8. Let me move on to the 9/11, and then I'll take some questions before I tell you about how we're going to communicate this out and some help we may need from the board. So in the 9/11 area, it's a little more complicated. Grades will count potentially for students if they want them to. Students are going to get to choose how each final grade is reported on the report card. And they have a couple of options. They can take the numeric grade that's at the end of Q3, or if it's improved from their remote learning during this time period, and for a lot of students it has, we're going to go back in and open up Q3 and let that grade continue to rise. They can take that numeric grade. If they take that grade, they will get awarded the credit for the class, and it will count in their GPA. And that's important because the other two options do not count in GPA. The other option that they have, if they're passing the class, is to take that PC-19 code like the middle school students will. This option will award the credit, but it will not affect their GPA. So they've got to know that up front. And then lastly, if for some reason we have not been able to get these kids to a pass, they can withdraw from the class with a WC-19. They will not get a credit for the class. It's gone. And obviously it will not affect GPA. So we have a plan for how we're gonna try to do this. We are building a screencast and a PowerPoint presentation that will be emailed out to parents and students later in the week, maybe towards the end of the week, with detailed information about making this choice for their final grades. And then after they've seen that, their individual teachers will send out an email to the classes, and students will have to respond to the teacher with how they want that class to be reported on their report card. Because the difficult thing is, it's not a one size fits all. So as a student, for each of my 4 core classes, I can take a PC-19 on one, take a numeric grade on another. I have lots of options. So teachers will be managing this through the email process. If for any reason we can't reach a student, we will go ahead with the PC code, the PC-19 code or WC-19 code, with the understanding that anything can be changed once the kids come back in school. And the state has really talked a lot about that to make sure students know this is not a final. We can change it once we're back in school regularly if students want to do that and need to sit down more with a guidance counselor to make some decisions. So that's the big piece. In the high school area, students will get to make that choice about their grades. So let me tell you how we're going to communicate that, and then I'll stop for some questions. So currently, today, in fact, over the weekend, yesterday and today, we have created a very thorough letter for K-5, for 6-8, and for 9-11. We will finalize those letters in the morning, make sure they're good to go with what we want, let Dr. Stover approve those with a signature. And then principals will share that out with teachers. We don't want parents to know more about what we're doing with students than our teachers do. So we've got to make sure the teachers know first. Once we feel good about that, hopefully by tomorrow evening or Wednesday, the goal will be to send these first emails out with these letters to all students and parents. And that'll be the first wave. Then after that, Stephanie Wilson is going to be helping us to make sure we have social media blasts about it. It is on our COVID-19 site, all those types of things. So we've got some plans in place to make sure. I would say by the end of the week or this coming Monday at the latest, all our communication about end of year grading should be out and in the hands of parents and students. So I'm going to stop right there and see if anybody has any questions before I talk about a few of the board policies that we might have to look at with this group.
So the kids that are taking classes in 8th grade, or maybe it's a 7th grader that is taking Algebra 1 this year, I assume that class will just be lumped into the 9/11 criteria.
That's correct. And that statement is in the letter, Ms. Britton, and it's in the 6-8 letter. If you are a middle school student taking a high school course, that course will fall into the 9/11 guidance. The only difference is no matter, they still get the choice on how the course is reported, but any middle schooler taking a high school course, it will not count on GPA regardless.
Okay.
So we've got to make sure students understand, and they never have. It won't be any different than in the past.
Right.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And so you were saying with the 9/11 also that they can take the 3rd quarter grade, or they can take the whole second semester grade, whichever is better. Then is that what you're saying?
So what we're doing is teachers will open back up Q3.
Just to affect that then.
That's right. To allow the students to have, we've had a really good response rate from our plan. We have most of our students are working, which is really exciting news for us. So to award those kids, if the grade at the end of Q3 goes up, we want to reflect that in the Q3 so that ends up the final grade that counts for the GPA if that's what they decide to take.
Okay, but a Q4 grade is non-existent at all then? Is that
right.
What you're saying?
There'll be no Q4 grade. Right now, teachers are putting grades in the Q4 column in Power School, or how the grades go, but that will eventually be turned off, and all of those grades will go into increase that Q3 grade. If by chance it decreases the Q3 grade, that we will not let that happen. It'll be the higher of the two that they'll get to keep.
Okay.
Yeah, and Becky, forgive me, I messed that up the other day when you and Glenn and I were talking. So I thought we were going to do it to the 4th quarter grade. I apologize. That's why we have Deanna. She's got it straight.
That makes sense.
Dr. Stover, in your defense, we were going to until Saturday. And Saturday we figured out that wasn't a possibility with the state.
Hey, I get it. That's all right.
So we weren't really going to do that, yes. Yes.
And so Deanna, this is Donna. So for the 9/11 students, either their Q3 grade or the added to Q3 grade, both of those will be added to their GPA. Or count toward one of the two,
that's right.
Whichever they choose, but both of those will be added into GPA.
That's right. The higher of the two, if they choose to use the numeric grade, it'll be the higher of those two that gets reflected in there. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so this is only for this situation. How is this going to, I know we don't know the future yet and where we're going to be moving into next school year. I guess that's going to be a whole different ball game that we need to visit at that time, huh?
Yeah, that's correct. We have put together, I think our first meeting is next week towards the end of the week. Dr. Stover asked us to go ahead and look into a district task force for online learning that we can go ahead and look at options K-12. We feel good about what we've gotten started, but we need some systematic approaches to what we're doing in 6-12 and some non-negotiables and some synchronous and asynchronous to make sure that's happening instruction. And then in the K-5, we need an entire plan. So we will start working towards that in case there is either we don't get started or it's some type of soft start in the fall of a blended model. And that's our next big endeavor. Once we get this out, that's what we'll be working on for the remainder of this school year.
Okay.
Great question.
So I want to, we talked on Friday and I threw out an idea, and this is just an idea. One of the concerns we have with the grading is it's great for kids and it's going to get taken care of. Our staff, it's going to be really labor intensive for them, but that's what we do for kids. But the reality is once this grading process gets out even more than what it is, any student can shut it down. Anyone, they can just shut it down and take the Q3. So batting around some ideas and knowing that next year we're gonna start different. Hopefully by the end of May, we'll have some more ideas on what that might look like. So this is something I threw out, and I want you to consider and think about. The local Board of Education can change the local school calendar. And one of the things that I just throw out to you as an idea, our last school day technically is supposed to be Friday, the 28th of May, I think, as I flip through my calendar. The last school day is supposed to be the 29th, Friday the 29th. So one of the things I was thinking about, so how do we encourage kids to keep going? And because our teachers, we know we're not going to keep them all. Here's what I'm thinking. What if we made a calendar change, put the last day of school on Friday, May 22nd, which means we'd end the Friday before Memorial Day. Then that kind of, parents may be happy about that. It might give students a carrot to do something till the end. And then I think I think most teachers probably would be happy with that. Some may be disappointed because they don't get to be with their kids the extra 4 days. But I will tell you, if we could gain those last 4 days on teacher work days and we knew more, we could help. That would free up 4 more teacher work days for teachers to start preparing for the fall, because we know it's going to look different. I just hope we know more about it then. So there's pros and cons to that. I think there's more pros than cons. I think I told you the pros. The cons are, does the public or the legislation feel like we're just cutting days because we don't value remote learning? Our staff and community, I think, would tell you we value remote learning greatly, and we've done a great job with it all the way around. I think what we value is our kids. It's almost like positive behavior. If you can stick with us, we can end sooner. And after Memorial Day, we've got 4 days, and they can be really important when you're in person. But when you're virtual and the grades aren't going to count, what is it going to do at that point?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to throw that out there for some and Crystal, and I apologize. I wish I had time to talk to you before this. Can we talk a little bit about that right now, Crystal, or how's that work?
You can. Let's see. You don't have that as an issue on the agenda, do you?
No, I'm just reporting. Is it something that we're allowed to talk about, or?
You can discuss it, but if you want to make it, you have the authority to make that decision in the new policies. So you don't have to have board approval to do this. But I understand if you want to discuss it now, that's perfectly fine.
Okay. Does anyone
get their consensus on it?
Right. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Donna
I'm okay
Carpenter.
with that.
Sorry, I think it's a great idea.
I do too.
I think that'll help the teachers do the end of the grade. There's a lot of work to be done, a lot more work to be done with these 3 options. I think it's a win for everyone.
Are we gonna send out any more packets?
Do it. Sorry.
We're gonna be sending out any more packets in the K-6 this year?
Glenn, the thing I'll say about that is if we decide to end on May 22nd, we're only short packet week of work of 1 week. If we bump that up, and that's helpful in that sense, because we could use that time, and in the parent letter that's going to go out, we could reflect in that we want that time for students to finish up the packet work and that type of thing, to make sure that they have plenty of time to turn that in by the end of that time. If we extend that out, if we have another 2 weeks to go, we're a little short. We'd have to make a decision about that.
Matt, let me share another idea. This is Donna again.
Right.
I talked with a parent just today who is currently still working her job. So she works 8 hours a day, and she has a kindergartner at Cheryl's Ford. And she said, this is killing me. So one thing that has been, I think, fruitful from this is that most parents now really appreciate educators. They really have a new perspective for education. But this particular mother said, "Oh my God, I'm up till midnight, working with her, trying to finish this project." For example, the day before Earth Day, she was assigned a project. So while the teachers are being conscientious, and that's where I tried to defend our teachers and say they're working hard to come up with ideas and things that are fun and creative and innovative. And likewise, though, that's a lot of stress on the parent who is continuing to work and to educate at home. So I think they will relish and enjoy these 4 days.
And Ms. Carpenter, the only thing I would add to that is I think that's what's going to be important about our plan moving forward, looking into the fall, where we start to create a more comprehensive plan.
Right.
Take a lot of those things into consideration.
Yeah.
The other part where we're working on too, Kelly Nicholson, our Quest director, Carla and Dan, we're getting a feeler now too for childcare. We'll see what the governor does after May 8th. And if we can, if by law, we can provide childcare services, even possibly by June 1, if we can get our ducks in the row and do it safely, then, I think I hadn't heard it officially, but I think we're going to hear from parents as they open up the economy. We need childcare. So that was going to be one of my updates to you guys is we're working on childcare for the summer, and it may be as soon as June 1st if we can get it going. And I have my hand like this because the sun's coming and I can't see my screen.
Thought he had a headache.
Yeah, this parent that I mentioned, she had asked me also about Quest, so that's a great thing.
Yeah. Anyone else? Any thoughts?
I think it's a good idea. I like the pros.
Well, that'll help get a good start on next year. They got a lot of work to do just to finish out this year.
And that'll be how you sell it from a PR perspective.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
need
exactly.
time. Yeah.
I guess my question would be revolving around hours and all of that. Is staff getting hours required, or
Yeah.
Can we have
everything will
students
stay
and everything?
No, TAs will work, teachers work, all our classified folks. We're still working. It's like teacher work days is what, in fact, that's what they are. Teacher work days.
Sounds good.
Would it make any difference to the grab and go lunches?
No, we're going to keep feeding, and we're going to keep feeding. In fact, I think we'll be able to feed even more kids if we get childcare going too, with Quest. So, and that's what I was going to tell you too. The next thing, I'll finish this. See, any other comments about that? Crystal, you're saying that we have the authority to do that as the administration?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
In the policy, you have the decision, you have the authority to stop school.
Okay. Well, if everyone's kind of in agreement, then I think we'll shoot for that. And I think that would be a brightening to our whole community, or a bright spot for our community.
Yes.
I think so as well.
Just please make sure you send it out to us in advance, right
Yes.
before we do it.
And that's required in the policy. So
Okay.
And so have they said anything about forgiving hours then, or have we met the hours and that's why we can do this?
Well, there, the hours, there's the omnibus bill is coming up, and it should waive all our hours. We can go back and calculate. It may be a moot point anyhow, because with our hours, we might be able to scrounge up 4 more days. I think we actually can, but I'd have to double check. I think the omnibus bill is going to cover that. But if not, I think we're going to be able to cover it anyhow in our calendar hours. What do you think, Carl? I see you down there.
I was just wondering too, if we have enough hours, could you even back that up more then? Would that benefit the teachers even more? I don't know.
Yeah. Deanna, can Carla hear us? Or you can hear? Yeah. Chris, can you hear me?
He's not on.
He's not on.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
There we
There
go.
he is.
Chris,
So I was checking to see where we are with hours.
okay. Yeah, we can look at hours. And I think one way or the other, we're going to be fine. I'll tell you this too, Becky, is whether they waive it or not, which I think they will. Districts didn't start online learning until some districts just started 2 weeks ago. They skipped 3 weeks. So I know we're in far better shape than every other district. If the
We're good on the hours.
reason I like Memorial Day is kind of a good bookend.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I said that.
I understand.
Dr. Stover,
Yes.
Donna, have you shared with maybe the other superintendents in our county? Are they thinking along the same line as well, so that it'll be a county maybe move?
I talked to, I texted both of them this morning to tell them I was going to talk to you guys about it. I talked to Dr. Gabriel. He said right now in Newton Conover, what they're going to do is wrap up before Memorial Day. They might not make an official change on their calendar.
Right.
And I didn't know that I didn't have to have official board approval, which I would like to have your guys' consent anyhow.
Yeah.
But it sounds like Newton Conover definitely is going to do it. I didn't hear back from Dr. Adele, but I
Yeah,
did fine though.
He would be wise to jump on board as well.
I think so.
Dr. Stover, Carla has the information. Hey, y'all, we have 35 hours.
We have 35 hours. We're good.
35.
Excellent. Rick Sane is providing some support. Thank you, Rick Sane. He's getting it right here. He's amazing. Okay. I want a few more updates. I apologize. You guys just need to know. May 4th, which is next Monday, we're going to continue to feed, obviously, the community and our students. But what we're going to do is change it with 1 to 2, I think 1 or 2 times a week. And Dan, you can pipe in here. And then all the meals during those times. So we're going to go to frozen breakfast and lunch. Caldwell County is doing this right now. It's been very successful. So it's less time in front of the public, but it's the same amount of meals. Dan, do you want to add anything to that?
Yes, primary reason for that is to make sure that our employees aren't exposed to possible carriers of COVID-19 any more than they already are. And it will increase our efficiency. And we are going to make sure that we deliver to all of our school bus sites as well, so that we don't have the backlog that we experienced prior to Good Friday.
A little feedback.
Yeah. Okay. So just wanted to update you on the feeding. We're averaging anywhere between 4,000 and 5,000 meals a day. In some cases, we were up to 8,000 prior to spring break. It's kind of sloughed off a little bit, but I think everybody who needs food's getting it. We're certainly trying to supply it to whoever's coming. So, and then our child nutrition, our transportation, everybody's been involved in that, done a great job. And so that's all the updates I have. Any questions for me? This last thing I want to tell you. If possible, I was just thinking through this. When we do the grade release about what we're going to do, I'd like to do the public release of the technical last day of school then, which would be Friday, May 22nd. Is that okay with you guys?
Yes.
Okay, I'll tell staff before then. I always like to give the staff a heads up, if you will. So I have a live broadcast tomorrow. Are you okay if I talk to our staff tomorrow morning?
Yes.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, so staff tomorrow morning, parents at the end of the week or to start next week, and we'll do it with the grades. I think it'd be a perfect mesh. Okay, we'll do it. Thank you all. Any questions for me on anything else? I'm sorry that was so long.
Dr. Stover, did you share the graduation piece?
Oh, graduation. Jeez Louise. All right, so graduation, right now, we've talked to students. We didn't get a great response from all the schools. I think it's because seniors aren't on their email anymore. So the principals are going to send a voice message out, and we've narrowed down a couple of options. One is a homeroom graduation that kids are mentioning a lot of, that we could do in the football stadium or in the gym. And we would, if that's in phase 2 of the governor's plan and we meet those numbers, then we could do smaller little homeroom graduations, if you will. That's all dependent on the phase 2 numbers though. The second one that we've floated out there with the kids too is the drive-in thing. Again, because we just didn't have a lot of response from 3 of the 5 traditional high schools. When I say not a lot, I'm talking 30 to 50 kids. So I told the principals, I said, I think it'd mean a lot if you sent the call out to the parents, let them know that the input's needed. I'm sure parents have input on, they're the ones who parented them up until now. They're going to tell Mary or John to get on there and give us some input. Challenger is waiting until CVC sees, and CVCC has pushed theirs to August 1st. And CREC is trying to do, they have 9 students, so theirs is going to be pretty easy, I think, for CREC. So we're working through that. But here's one of the things that has come up. Do we keep a traditional graduation and try to push it down the line? And the thing we're most concerned about is we want to do whatever we can for our graduating class. That's no issue. We can do it next January. The issue is as we've talked to kids, is this idea of I want high school to end with something, and some kids, depending on where they're at, where they're going to be. I don't know. But the third phase of the governor's plan would be in session, hopefully when school comes in place, or hopefully done before that. But if not, we still have this idea of when are large gatherings going to be allowed. And a traditional high school graduation, you guys have been there, thousands of people. So I just don't know if we can get to that or when we'll get to that. So I've asked our principals to say, hey, what works for you and your community? What works for the kids? And we're going to try to accommodate that in a more normal time frame. I know several schools have done a prom later. We've got middle school doing 8th grade stuff later if they can gather. But there's just so many what ifs. That's what we got now. Do you guys have any input on that? We've opened it up to anyone who's got ideas, because no one's got the great answer on this one.
Dr. Stover, do you want it to be uniform for all the high schools, or are you willing to let the schools do as they choose?
I am. The reason I say that is because we've narrowed it down. I didn't want bandies to be allowed to go on the football field and Saint not, because that would cause issues. So I said, listen, throw out the homeroom idea, because most of our principals, Danny, you were in there, the kids gave us that idea and they liked it, and the principals are willing to do the work to go with it, because it'd be like a whole day ceremony. It's not something like, for example, it's not about you and I, but the bottom line is we'd have to choose one high school to go to one day and be part of that if we wanted. But we're not going to get to all of them. I'm not going to get to all of them if they do this model, because they'd be doing it at the end of May there, right at the start of June. So that's the downfall of it. I mean, for you and I, that selfishly speaking, we like to be there, but for the kids' sake, they love this homeroom idea. So that's what we're going to try to go with.
On chat, Kathy said she can't be heard. and she can't be viewed, but she can hear us and see us. But her comment is that flexibility is key. We need to see what, if anything, we can do for each site.
Right.
Yeah.
We know each high school really is different. The communities are different.
Yes.
You know, like I said, they need to make their choice. You have a lot of kids as soon as high school is over with, you got a lot that's off to the military within a week or two.
Yes.
So we need to make sure that they all can participate in some way, some shape, some form.
Yep.
That's one thing.
When that idea came out about the homerooms and the numbers are just unsure, if we can get some solidity on that, is I know that if one principal decided not to do a homeroom scenario, unless they heard back from the students, that's why I said you need to go back student input again on this. Let's say Mr. Miller at Bunker Hill High School, his community comes back and says, we want to do the drive-in. I'm not saying they will, they probably won't. But if they did, then that works for them, then we're good with that. But if they didn't have the opportunity to go on the field or be in the gym like another school did, we're setting up that principal up and that school up for failure because that won't go well. Okay, so that's graduation. There we go. We're working on it. No final answers. We're still getting input, but I think the process is a good one. I guarantee you, when it's all said and done, we won't make everybody happy, but we're certainly going to do the best we can for our kids.
May I ask Deanna a question? When we were talking about the schools, you did 9/11. So with seniors, are their grades pretty much done already?
Yeah, the plan is out. They're not done, but the plan is out there. And yeah, so basically for them, they're getting the PC-19 or the WC-19 like the middle school.
Gotcha.
Nothing from the spring is going to count on their GPA at all.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
And therefore, seniors are literally done for the most part. We've said if you want to stick with us because you're going into a college class, you're going to need it. And I think we have some AP kids still participating.
Sure.
Actually. But for the most part, we've got college kids right now. I talked to a kid the other day. He's enrolled in the University of Alabama today. So, you know, they're moving on. Some kids are, you know.
Awesome.
Okay, I'm done. I'm so sorry. Thank you for your patience. I had a lot to update you on. I wanted to make sure you guys were in the know. And certainly anytime you have any questions, reach out to any one of us and we'll help you and keep you informed. We're trying to get everybody informed at the same time. Check out that COVID-19 website if you hadn't seen it. But we're just trying to keep everybody as informed as possible.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I guess we're ready to move on to Crystal.
Yeah, for public hearing and public comment. So at this point, we typically convene, and we will convene the public hearing section of our board meeting. At this time, any members of the public who wish to address the board on matters that are on the agenda, you may do so at this time. We have modified this to allow for the public to have until today at 4:30 to make any comments about matters that are on the agenda by sending an email to me. And as of right now, I have received nothing. I've also checked the boardroom and there's no one there to make comments at a public hearing. So hearing no comments, the public hearing is now closed. And subsequent, now we will open the public comment section of the board meeting regarding matters that are not on the agenda. Again, the public was given notice that they have until 4:30 today to make any comments in the public comment section about matters that are not on the agenda. I received no emails whatsoever, and there's no one in the boardroom that has signed up or even is present to make public comments. So hearing no public comments, the public comment section is closed.
Okay, thank you, Crystal. I just want to go back and, gosh, how can you put words together for what our administration, you know, our teachers, our TAs, our nutrition folks, maintenance, everybody, how can you put words into what, all that they've done here in the last month? It's just been amazing. I love talking to the school board, president and brag to him about you guys and what all Catawba County has been able to, accomplish. Some of the stuff I've told him he really didn't believe, I don't think. But, you know, I told him it's the truth. I mean, you guys have been great. And our school board members have been awesome. Y'all been very patient, very kind. And Dr. Stover and the rest of you, know, your staff knows that we're here and whatever we, can do to help. And appreciate you keeping us informed. And how many of you, I don't know how many of you seen Dr. Stover on TV this morning. I didn't get to see him this morning, but I did get to see it later. You did a great job. Proud of
Great
you.
job.
Well, thank you.
A movie star one of these days.
Yeah, Donna captured a mugshot of me while I was on there. Donna, I appreciate your comments. I appreciate you guys. I'm telling you, I just thank you guys for all you do. And our staff's done incredible work. So thank you guys.
Yeah, and I had the pleasure of talking to another person this week that worked with Mark Story on K64. And he just kept talking about Mark and his vision and what all that they came up with and how it's really helped our students. And that's what it's all about. It's about helping our students. And bless Marty Sharp. I don't know when Marty's ever going to get to take a break, but he definitely needs one. I'll tell you what, whenever you close school down early, let's give him a couple of days off. I don't think so. Now we'll move on now. Let's go to consent items. We got 1 through 6.
Chairman Fulbright,
Yes.
just 1 second. Deanna had mentioned a few minutes ago that she wanted to mention policies, something about board policies. Deanna, did you want to mention that now or later?
Yeah, now is fine, and I'll be brief because I'll be honest with you. We just got the information on Thursday, and we've worked over the last couple of days to try to figure out the right policies to look at. So I think at our next meeting, I believe that's May. When's our next meeting? Do you guys know? May 11th? May 11th. We would know for sure about the policies and then bring those to you. We think there will need to be a couple of policies that are waived or suspended just till the end of this year. And we'd like to research that a little more and then meet with Ms. Davis about that. But there are 4 that we're looking at. The first policy, 3.8100, is about student promotion and accountability. And that's where it talks about course credit, graduation standards, and final exams. So we're pretty sure that'll have to be suspended. The second one is testing and assessment. We would need suspended about final exams and state testing. The state waived a policy, so that might be a good enough on that one, but we'll talk with Ms. Davis about that. The third one is 3.7800 about graduation requirements. And then the fourth, 3.7500, student progression and placement. So that's about retention. You know, in all of these plans, a student can't fail a class at all. So we may need that policy suspended or waived just till the end of this year. But we'd like to come back to you on May 11th with more detailed information about which policies we need help with.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, now we'll move on. Consent items number 1 through 6. What I'm going to try to do is go to each person individually, and Kathy can see she's with us. She can hear us, but I guess she'll be typing in.
Yeah, Kathy's going to send us her vote via comment.
Okay. All right. Leslie, you got any comments or questions on consent items 1 through 6?
No, I don't have any questions.
David?
No.
Donna?
Nope, I'm good.
Becky?
On consent 3, the overnight out-of-state field trip request, I know that's for October. If is there any way that we can ensure this all is pending status of social distancing orders that are in place at that time? And also, whoever's organizing that trip, are they aware of refunds? Because I know that was a big deal before all these trips got canceled.
Yeah, what they wanted was board approval in case it was in case they were able to. And I'll tell you, the folks and we can do a post-COVID refund now, but our field trips, a lot of them got refunded almost 90% in a lot of cases. But Becky, they just wanted to get your permission first and then work from there. And certainly I can talk to them. And I'll tell you, it's just been the last week where I felt, geez, October may not be.
It still might not happen.
I know. So
I know.
I've got to call Jessica. I'm talking to Jessica, I think tomorrow anyhow. And so I'll talk through that with her, certainly to make sure we had a full refund and let her know that we still might be in a social distancing situation. It might not be a good time. That's why I put all the summer camps and everything else on hold, because it's just not, summer's not looking good, really.
Right.
If you will have, I don't know if it's Jessica, I don't know which field trip this is about, but if you'll have her send me for me to review anything that they contract with these people about, then I'll make sure there's something called a force majeure clause in there that allows us to cancel, which should be in most of those, especially with Christian tours and all that. I don't know. I haven't seen any of the contracts, but
Okay. I just want to make sure they're protected.
And I think what you do is make the approval. I think you condition it on. It's only conditioned on the vendor or whoever they're contracting with agreeing that they can cancel it. In if there are still restrictions on social distancing and travel and that sort of thing, and also make it contingent on the governor, I guess, reopening the state. And Kathy says she has no questions.
Ron? Nothing. Okay. All right. We need a motion to approve consent items 1 through 6. Kathy says yes.
I can make that motion to approve. It's David.
Kathy made the motion. We need a second.
Okay, I'll second.
All right. Thank you. All right. All in favor? We're going to do the raise the hand things. There you go. Kathy, you raising your hand? Yes. Okay, she is. All right. Tell you what, I should be so glad we get back to face.
Yes.
Y'all look good on there, but still, it's not the same. Okay, unfinished business. Mr. Moore.
Yes, sir. Chairman Fulbright, members of the board, and Dr. Stover, I hope you had an opportunity to look at our construction updates. We are progressing well. Ban Oak is moving along very well. We have some photos for you. Next slide, please, Marty. He's driving that train, and I am thankful for that. That photo to the left is in the office area. I can honestly tell you it does not look that way right now. They have progressed beyond that. To the right is an example of one of the classrooms in the 4-pack, and that also has progressed beyond that photo. Our next slide, please, sir, is the connecting hallway between the two structures, the gym and the current building, and it is moving along well. We are seeing brick and block being laid at that particular location. As you can tell there, they didn't even have the floor poured at that point. I can tell you that has since happened. And work is progressing rapidly at Ban Oak, and we're very pleased. Next slide, please, sir. This is our stormwater detention project. A couple of photos there. I actually have some photos in a folder as well to help explain a change directive to the tune of $31,000. We will discuss that shortly, but that is a pretty large area, and we will address any concerns at that point in time. Again, that is covered in dirt now. That stormwater detention system is, for the most part, complete. Next slide, please, sir. We are completing security vestibules at Arndt and Murray, and we're able to do that primarily through the grant that we received back in the fall for safety. And we're very pleased with the projects and the progress there as well. Next slide, please, sir. That is the old office at Arndt. You can see that we have constructed a new office for the SRO. That's to the right. And you can see the outline on the floor where the old office used to be. That area will now be occupied by the receptionist over at the reception window. Next slide, please, sir. Murray E, we're also moving along with security vestibule there. The reason we chose Murray and Arndt is because they were low-hanging fruit. They already had perhaps 75% of the structure in place. And based on the money that we received from NCDPI, it seemed the logical choice for these two locations. Next slide, please, sir. So at Catawba E, we had playground issues and we had poor drainage. We actually had water from our PK playground that was entering back into the classrooms on that hallway.
Wow.
Next slide, please, sir. I can tell you that that has since been mitigated, and there's actually some newer photos that I wish I could share with you that were brought to my attention today. It really looks good. We've provided now some falls so that that water has a place to go and not in our building. Sometimes when construction projects are completed, they make the area too flat, or the ground actually slopes back toward the building, and that's what we were experiencing there. But we have since been able to mitigate that, partly because of our ability to access the campus while there were no children. So I did see a question from Ms. Starnes. She said, did our folks do that work? At Catawba, our people did that work, and we were very proud that they were able to get down there and complete that. And really, it's been on our list. It's just one of those things. It's a time and issue, and it's an issue with having access to the entire campus. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that anyone might have at this point.
Mr. Moore,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Abernathy was asking, why did we allow the ground not to be graded properly to start with for drainage? Or why wasn't it done?
There was a requirement for mulch for the PK playground, and there's a certain depth of mulch that is required. We were having was because of the location, which has to be part of the pre-K classroom requirements. It has to be adjacent or immediately accessible to the classroom. What we created with that mulch was an opportunity for water to run back into the building.
Okay, thank you. Yep.
Any other questions that I might be able to answer for the board at this time? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to new business. Mr. Sigmund.
Good afternoon. I will present, I think Debbie has shared with you my summary, my 1 or 2 page summary, but I'll present my screen and share that with you as well. So if you'll hold on just a second and I'll present my screen. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
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 Okay,
Yep.
I'll be quick. This is part of the grant that we get each year that goes along with the Early Head Start grant that we receive. This is not part of the competitive grant. This is part of the money that we receive automatically. I just have to write it up so we do receive the money. We get the COLA grant each year, and we are required to apply that towards the salaries of the Early Head Start educators. If we do not apply it directly to salaries, we are asked to explain why. In our case, we do not apply the 2% increase to our educator salaries because we pay them on the North Carolina teacher scale. And most Head Start educators are not paid. So I had to do a comparison of our salaries, and that's what you see here. You see the iCare, the NOLA group, and then I also had to put in what our average kindergarten teacher makes, so they can look at the comparison with our Early Head Start. And as you see, our Early Head Start educators make significantly more than any of the other ones. So we're perfectly fine in not applying it directly to their salary. So I met with Carla and we decided to do what we usually do and apply it to their benefits. As you see, the total we are getting is $16,736. 75% of that is going to go to their health care, which is $12,552. And then the other 25% will go to retirement, which is $4,184. Any questions about the COLA grant? Okay, the other grant that we are receiving this year that we do not get every year, we only get this periodically, and it's been many years since we've gotten the Quality Improvement Grant. So we are being awarded the Quality Improvement Grant in the amount of $55,000. They are wanting us to use it towards mental health and any kind of emotional trauma, somehow that type of approach. So we are definitely able to do that because we have not been able to replace the mental health component in our Early Head Start staff since Mary Moran became sick and since has passed away. So that position has never been filled, and it is a vital requirement of Early Head Start, and we've been feeling it kind of internally with the other educators kind of sharing that role and the responsibilities within that. So I am asking for that to be put towards having that position replaced. And as you can see here is the analysis of how all that $55,000 will be divided up into the salary, all the benefits. And Carla and I talked about maybe a travel stipend as well because of the travel to the homes because of our Early Head Start. So I put that in to make it equal to $55,000. So there you see how that the quality improvement, how I'm asking for that to be used to replenish that position that's been vacated for so long in our mental health coordinator position. Any questions about that?
Did you say, this is Becky, did
Yes.
you say that this is a one-time thing, like just for 1 year or?
No, the quality improvement is a continuous grant
Okay,
until they decide not to continue it anymore.
okay,
We all know how that goes.
yes,
But right now it is a continuous grant.
okay.
Anybody, any more questions? Okay.
Okay,
Thank
let me
you.
stop presenting and give it back over to you guys.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anybody got any questions, comments?
Kathy's got
Jackie had a question.
Kathy?
I'm sorry. Kathy's chat question was, what are the qualifications for the position, JR?
Yes, we are going to use what it would be for a school counselor. We're using the qualifications for a school counselor, but I'm also going to be looking for someone that also has a mental health training and background. So we're doing the basic school counselor requirements, which is the master's in they have to have a master's level degree. And then I'm looking for someone who has experience with the mental health training as well.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions or comments? David, Donna?
I'm
Yeah.
good.
Becky,
No,
Kathy sent hers in. John? Okay, we need a motion to approve item number 1, Early Head Start Supplement Grants.
This is Donna, and I make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Donna. We need a
Leslie
second.
seconds. Leslie seconds.
Thank you, Leslie. All right, all in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
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 Good deal. Okay, new business number 2, Dr. Stover.
The quarterly fundraising that we asked for is just in case type thing, just in case we can. So that's what you have in front of you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments? Everybody good?
I would say just as long as it's contingent upon, again, the social distancing, and also with those booklets, we got to think about, are the kids going to be doing face-to-face contact with kids? I guess that's one of my concerns. Some of those were in the month of July, and I just don't know how I feel about the kids selling something, standing out at the convenience store trying to sell it to somebody. I don't want to put them in that predicament. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that the governor will dictate how this will look. The schools want to have something in place in case we were able to do something through the governor and social distancing. So, Debbie and I talked about already that we will be, again, just in case, and we'd have to follow all guidelines that were going, or that we had in place.
Yeah, I didn't know how soon the schools purchase those coupon books and cards and things. I don't want them to go out and buy these in the month of May or June, anticipating they can sell them in July, July 1st. So just as long as they're aware of that and watching all that, then.
Yeah, and I'll reinforce too on our next administrator Google Hangout with all our folks that I've told them that I think you need to be very cautious with planning things through June and now after the governor's release and the phases. It was evident. We talked the other day about even mid-August. So, but I'll definitely reinforce that again. What we're going to really have to think through what after the governor's phases and his direct comments, then what do we want to allow? And then what are we going to be able to do too? I know the NCHSA is meeting later this week to discuss the what ifs of not having fall sports. So, what?
First, you can also, Becky and the rest of the board, you can also grant Dr. Stover the authority to approve them on an individual basis. Of course, that's a lot of work on his part, but that would require him to examine the timeline and what's in place at the moment. So that's another way you can do it. Kathy has made a motion to approve contingent upon COVID restrictions. The other alternative is you could delegate that authority to Dr. Stover and have him assess each individual fundraiser before they place any orders, before they do anything. But he's also told you he's going to reinforce it. So either way.
Kathy, you want to add anything to your motion?
She said motion to approve a contingent upon COVID restrictions.
Okay, and she said I will amend to allow Dr. Stover to do that. We need a
Oh, yeah.
second. We need a second.
I'll second that.
Leslie seconds it. All in favor? That's everybody, Debbie. Okay, Mr. Moore, are you gonna continue on with all of your Bound Oak at one time?
I can if you would like for me to do that. Yes, sir.
If the board doesn't mind, we'll let him do all of the Bound Oak phases and combine, let's see, new business 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 4, 5, 6, and 7 together as one vote.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Moore.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman Fulbright, members of the board, and Dr. Stover. The first document that you have in your packet is that general contingency and allowance summary. If you remember, when we began this last phase, we had $100,000 in contingency, and what you see in change directives 1, 2, 3, and 4 is how this money has been expended or will be expended with your approval at this point. No action required for that first document. Change directive number 1 is tied to pipe bollards. If you remember, when we were at Fan Oak during the school visit, you were able to see those bollards up around the bus parking. And the idea is to keep vehicles from driving on the sidewalk and harming children. Our plan is to continue at all new construction to make sure that we have pipe bollards in place to keep our students safe that are lined up on the sidewalk. The amount of this particular change directive in total is $11,761. And you see on that particular change directive document the information as it pertains to that cost. Our second item, change directive number 2, is some owner requested additions, and Ms. Britton asked some questions with particular interest in this item. What did we request? Things of that nature. Why did we request it? Rick was able to provide answers for those questions. Really, it's tied to our ability to be able to put the ductwork back up in the ceiling. That's the primary part of that. There are also some water fountains that we requested, a water fountain, excuse me, some tile behind a removed toilet petition. We wanted to replace that. A demo of some existing partitions and some new walls, some mechanical and electrical changes. The cost of this particular change directive is $13,743. Our next change directive is the expensive one. It's the $31,108. I provided a folder for your attention that was also included that had multiple photographs of this change and also a letter of explanation from our engineer, as well as a bulleted list of points as to why this change needed to take place. Bottom line is we received information from a vendor that a particular stormwater detention system would work for us. When in fact we reviewed the engineering specs after the bid had been received, it was found that that would not work, and we had to go back to another vendor in order to provide stormwater detention. And really what we've got, folks, we got a very small area out there at Banno, and that stormwater cannot just run across our adjoining neighbor's property. There has to be a detention system. You see these oftentimes at gas stations and other small businesses. Really, it's almost like a giant holding tank for the storm water until it's able to dissipate back into the ground. So that's an expensive change directive, but unfortunately it's necessary based on our limited amount of space at Van Oak Elementary. Our last change directive is some cabinetry that will be above our sinks. That was included in the upstairs renovation. We wanted to make sure that we were consistent downstairs as well. So in total, well, actually, I can just list those off easier than in total. Our steel bollards were $11,761. Our water fountain, staff toilet tile repairs, HVAC duct, electrical, and partial walls is $13,743. Underground retention system is $31,108, and cabinetry $4,802. And I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have at this particular time.
And I believe I had asked you, and maybe the other board members don't know, but you said that the 5-day extension seems appropriate and enough time.
I think so. We've since been given a gift, if you will, on Friday. We actually had a construction meeting last week in which the timeline was discussed. Knowing now that we don't have kids on campus, it will allow for our construction company to move with greater speed. There's no desire or worry about children being on campus. They can actually go. So we're hoping that this will indeed give us the time. Quite honestly, it's going to be tight. We acknowledge that. But Ms. Starnes also has a question. She's asking, is this the last of the change directives for this location? I wish I could say that were true. I do know that we have a 2-inch water line that's going to need to be added to this particular project as well. It's not a huge amount of work. It's for the existing gym. We're going to tie back into the water line that is adjacent to Highway 10. The old water line ran from an area beyond where the old kitchen was to the gym. And as we began to tear into the parking lot with this stormwater detention system, we realized that this water line needed to be replaced. We've got a shorter way to get home, if you will, but we are going to have at least one other change directive, and hopefully that will be it. But anytime you begin to have renovation work, you're going to experience some problems. And I dare say that when we start tearing into St. Stephen's High School, we'll have some problems that we'll have to mitigate as well. Kathy's question, are we going to be over budget? I hope not. I don't think we will. I feel like we're going to be fine there. But again, barring any unforeseen changes, we should be okay. But that's a legitimate question. We've had a lot of change directives at Bannock, but we're coming down the home stretch, and I hope we can get it finished under budget.
My question on the retention system, was that something that the architect just missed, or how did that come about?
When we began the project, of course, the architect passes that off to the civil engineer, and that's why I've got those 2 letters, or that bulleted information, plus that letter from Miles. Miles was having difficulty receiving any type of bid from one of our vendors, one of our trusted vendors that actually provides this type of service. And as you well know, there's not a lot of people that are doing this. And he could never get a bid or a proposal from this particular company. Well, he got one from another company who assured us that it would work, that it would be acceptable. But really, it was able to handle about half the capacity because the vaults in which the water ends up being stored were actually filled halfway with sand. And so because of that, that created a capacity issue. It wouldn't have met code. So we had to go back to the vendor that we tried to get a proposal from earlier, who was then able to provide it. So it's been a little bit of a saga, but it's not an architectural issue as we couldn't get a proposal from one of the few vendors that actually does this type of thing.
Looks like that might be a good business to get into.
Yeah, there's not a lot of people doing it. Like I say, I've only seen it a couple of times, and really it's tied to small contained areas, which you have a lot of rainwater runoff, which is what we do. We don't have a lot of ground out there, and the ground that we've got is going to either be in parking lot or it's going to be roof. And so that's why we have to have this system in the first place.
Kathy asked another question, but I didn't catch it.
Oh, that's a good question. It is for the whole property. The question is the tank catching water for the whole property? It's catching all of our storm water runoff. We've installed, of course, a couple of trench drains across driveways to make sure that water is diverted in the proper direction. We've had a couple of complaints from our neighbors about water crossing Lefevre's Road into yards, and we're mitigating that. But this should take care of all of those issues. So it's actually catching water for the entirety of the property.
Has anybody else got any more questions or comments? Ron said no. Leslie, David,
No.
Becky?
I actually do.
Okay, David.
My comment is kind of going back to last meeting when we were talking about this and approving that St. Stephen's project. We were using potential 400,000 out of here. Where are we at with that?
We're good there. We actually received a thumbs up from the commission. They moved ahead with that particular project, and the money that we wanted to move from those pots was approved by the commission. So we are actually, I think our first pre-construction meeting is next week concerning that project. They also approved our money that we transitioned from pots for the St. Stephen's /ARNT as well. So that money's been approved, and we feel like we're going to be okay with Van Oak. Hopefully we'll make it. We don't have a lot of structural things left to do. We do have that connecting corridor. A lot of it is civil now. It's finishing up parking lots. It's doing a lot of landscaping and painting. There's some work in the gym, but we feel like most of our issues should be resolved at this point.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
As Ms. Starnes said, fingers crossed, and I'm in agreement.
Kathy asked if there's going to be a groundbreaking at St. Stephen's.
We hadn't scheduled that at this point. I assume we could. Rick's sitting here in the office with me. I think we can work something out.
Social distancing.
Well, that Rick brings up a good point. Proper social distancing. Maybe we'll have I don't know what a virtual groundbreaking looks like, but perhaps it'll have to be something that'll be limited in scope, something that we could present or record for people to be able to participate in. But we'll begin to look at it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're good we need a motion to approve new business 4, 5, 6, and 7.
I make the motion.
Mr. Abernathy made the motion to approve. Need a second?
I'll second.
Becky
Becky will second.
Okay, thank you, Becky. All in favor, wave your hand. Hey. All right, motion carried. Good.
Thank you.
Mr. Moore, you again.
Number 8 is the approval of budget and bid cost summary for new HVAC systems at Clyde Campbell E. And we are asking that the board consider option 2. And basically what that involves is our ability to purchase all of the rooftop units for a primary part of that the older part of that campus. We have rooftops that we want to install at that location. Unfortunately, we don't have the totality of the funds to complete the project. I can tell you, as Dr. Stover mentioned earlier, We have been in contact with Mr. Berry, and we've got a preliminary idea of the funds that are coming this year and what that might look like. And we feel good that we will receive the amount of funding available to install as well. There are still some rooftop units that need to be completed on that back hall, but this will give us a good start. So we are asking for option 2, which is for us to purchase the equipment with available funds and to work with Hickory Sheet Metal to start the project. They would cut the roof openings. They would install the curbs with temporary covers. Once we receive the available funding that we expect on our July 1st drop down from county government, we would then be able to install those RTUs. So that would be a request for option 2. We want to be able to do that in the total of $280,466. But to begin with, we would purchase that equipment and shelve it until we receive funding from the county government to actually install it.
Okay, anybody got any questions or comments? David, Leslie, Becky?
I'm good.
Kathy, this is just for the purpose.
That's correct. Kathy's question, that is correct. It is for the purchase and it's for the installation of the curbs. So we would have Hickory Sheet Metal actually complete a lot of the preliminary work so that the RTUs could be installed prior to the beginning of school.
Ron, anything? Okay. We need a motion to approve new business item number 8.
This is Donna. I'll make a motion to approve.
Donna made a motion, Ron second. All in favor, wave your hand. Motion carried.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Murray,
Ladies and gentlemen. All right, last thing for me today. So this is window replacement work, and as you well know, what we do is we continue to do these projects in phases. We've actually completed bunker. This would be phase 3 at Bandy's, and we're beginning work at Ford. We're replacing those single pane windows that are energy vampires at those 2 locations. So the total cost for Bandy's would be 187, excuse me. Total cost for both of these projects, beginning with Bandy's, is $234,920. The project at Ford would be $197,716. Knowing that at Bandy's we have $187,000 available, we're short. I can tell you again from our conversations with Mr. Berry that there is funding for window replacement both at Bandy's and at Ford in this upcoming budget to help meet this shortfall. To get a head start, we would reach out to the commission, specifically Mick Berry, because the request will be less than $50,000. He is able to meet that request. It doesn't have to go in front of the commission. Literally, we would take the amount necessary to complete the Bandy's project, which is less than $50,000, and then supplement it back when we receive those funds for the Bandy's project. Again, we're trying to make sure that we get the work completed appropriately. When we finish this part at Bandy's, there will be a few windows left here and there that need to be replaced, but for the most part, we'll have that particular high school with better double pane windows that aren't energy vampires. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, you've heard the presentation. Any comments or questions? Nope.
Kathy's got a question. Is there any chance we will not get the money? There is a chance, although I don't think Mr. Berry would have shared that with us. The basic documents, this is what he will recommend to the commission. I can't say with 100% certainty, but I'm confident that I don't think he would have shared it with us if he didn't think that it would pass. Be advised that we've got enough money right now to do both projects. The problem is we are going to have to move some money from Ford over to Bandy's to finish it up. And so our thought is once we receive our funds, we will be able to supplement those funds that we use for the Bandy's project back to Ford. But we do have enough money right now. We're not having to ask for anything additional.
Okay, thank you. Okay, no question, no comments. We need a motion to approve new business item number 9.
I make the motion to approve new business number 9.
Becky makes a motion to approve. Need a second?
I'll second.
Leslie seconds. All in favor, wave your hand. Hey. Motion carried.
Thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
Ms. Crystal Davis, you're up.
Hey there. So I'm going to address new business 10 and 11 at the same time. These are policy changes that are required by the North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. We were waiting, actually, we really should have amended this in January, but we were waiting on further instruction from DPI. We still haven't gotten it yet, so we might have to have another amendment, but I wanted to go ahead and do this. I'm sorry, did I say, yeah. In December, we were going to do it in January, and they said, wait, we're going to have amendments. So we may very well have to bring this back to you guys, but basically what's happened is they have released or discontinued certain standards that we used to be required to retain certain records, and they've released that. So now we can destroy those records, but we have to approve this policy, and that's and also the agreement that was set forth in the new consent item number 6. We have to sign that, or Glenn will have to sign that approval. And once we do that, then we have permission to destroy those records. However, again, this may be subject to change, and it's very difficult. I don't know how we'll look into this quite yet. I'll probably have to get with Carla and maybe Deanna and Marty as well. The electronic records retention schedule is also there for electronically stored information. There were a few changes in it, but I thought that while we were doing one, we'd do the other. So we're asking for approval of the board policy amendments to board policy 5.0700-7.1900 and board policy 5.0710-7.200. Any questions?
Okay, any questions, comments? Everybody's good? Kathy's made a motion to approve. Need a second?
Second.
David seconds. All in favor? Hey. Thank you. Okay, number 12. Dr. Stover, Carla, which ones are going to take that? School nutrition supplement.
Carla, do you want to talk through just the options again?
I sure will. So our proposal was a $2 per hour stipend with an estimated cost of $28,911 or a $1.50 stipend, $1.50 per hour for an estimated cost of $21,683, payable with the May payroll, I guess. Or we could do a special run mid-May if you would like. And it will be with local funds.
Okay, any question or comments?
So we have to pick one or the other. I'm sorry, Leslie.
Yes. We need to talk, you want $2 or $1.50? I can say that with our conversation and looking at the numbers that I'm all in favor of the $1.50 an hour.
That kind of ensures that there'll be more for later.
Yes.
Is that true?
That's true.
I was going to ask if that option included a second payment in June if the money's available.
If you make the motion, we'll certainly take it that way.
But I thought that you were I thought you were leaving that open for the fall. I mean, maybe I misunderstood.
No.
Oh.
For a second payment in June is what I believe.
I now see what you mean. Yeah. I'm sorry.
I mean, it's better to get $1.50 an hour 2 different times than it is to get $2 an hour or whatever one time.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
And if you run it a separate time in May, does that takes out less taxes? Is that true? Do they get supplemented?
We would have to tell the software not to combine taxes, and it wouldn't. We can handle that.
Okay.
All right.
I'll make the motion.
I got a motion from Mr. Abernathy to do $1.50.
I'll second that.
David a second. Anybody else got any more comments, questions?
And that's in May and June.
That is for May. And Carl, we need to add the contention that if funds are available.
I'm sorry, you faded out just a little bit. April would be payable in May, and May's would be payable in June.
Okay, so it is for 2 times.
So
Okay.
we will need to amend the motion.
Okay, Mr. Abernathy, amend the motion for pay for,
Yes,
In
amend
May.
the motion for the April pay to be in May and June. Yes.
okay, motion amended. Still need Davidson, still second?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor? All right. Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Doctor, we do have a need for a closed session, correct?
Yeah, it shouldn't take but a second. I just want to say thank you to the Board of Education for your support for those workers. And when I give them the news, rest assured that I'll let them know that you folks were essential in making this happen. So thank you so much. You guys have been more than generous. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we need a motion to go into closed session for,
I'll make the motion to go into closed session.
need a second?
I second.
Okay, got a second from Leslie. All in favor? Okay, we're gonna take a 5-minute break and everybody can switch, close out and switch to closed session. Thank you.
Close second. You got it?
But we
is
gotta
every-
go out, we gotta finish.
Yeah, we gotta finish. Is everybody back?
Can you touch up, Glenn?
No, they're leaving, they're dropping like flies.
I know.
We're good to
Marty said we good to go. So see, we got Donna, Leslie here, Becky here, I'm here, Ron's here, David left, Kathy's
I'm making
with
the
us.
motion to adjourn.
We got a motion to adjourn. Need a second.
I'll
I'll second that. Oh,
Got a
go ahead,
second. All in
Leslie.
favor, wave bye. Kathy said yes. All right, good
Thanks.
night, y'all. Thank
Thank
y'all.
you, everybody. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening. Thank you.
Now,
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
now